tiempo en el espacio.
No hay presupuesto ni para pagar al personal. Preparar tu relevo no será fácil. Nada fácil.
¿Y si te quedas sin energía?
Sería el fin.
My first question is, how did you end up in this film and what attracted you to it?
I was actually visiting Cuba with a friend of mine, a very famous director of photography, filmmaker, named Gabriel Beristain. And the notion of finding ways to make production happen in Cuba. And we ended up having a meeting with some people who ran the state television. And I had a whole series of requests for them. I never got a chance to save their requests because it turns out they were producing this movie called Sergio and Sergey, and it had an American character. And so this woman from Cuban TV spent the entire time testing whether I wanted to consider being in it. The minute she told me the subject matter, and the minute I checked out the filmmaker with the friends I was with, and turned out he's an important Cuban filmmaker, I agreed without even seeing the script. And so 1 year later I came back to Havana to shoot.
Okay, so about that, was it because it was a political film, maybe, or why did the script talk to you?
I mean, it's a beautiful story. It turns out it's more political than not, but that's not why I did it. What attracted me the most was the idea of opening up this forbidden little world, an American and Cuba. Those are two things that are not supposed to coexist. And doing what I love the most, working on an independent film with local people, seeing how they do it, seeing how they function, seeing what they are allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say, commensurate with what my government has told me to believe about the Cuban experience, that nobody can speak freely and everything is whispered, and this was bullshit. I've been fed a bunch of lies. They were very, very open, talk about fascism openly in the film, and talk about freedom openly in the film. They are as artistically sophisticated as any filmmaking community that I've ever been a part of. And I felt privileged to be invited into their little world.
And why were you in the first place looking for projects there in Cuba?
My friend Gabby has this idea about forming a production company down there and looking for ways, because he said, I want to take you to a place that I'm in love with, that I've been going, because he's Mexican, so he's been able to go to Cuba his whole life without the encumbrance of what I'm faced with, which is, as an American citizen, going to Cuba was forbidden. Things began to relax a little bit under Obama, so he said, I want to turn you on to this place, and I want to talk to you about what we can possibly do down there so we can, number one, be in this amazing environment, and number two, do what we love most, which is making product, entertainment. So that was the guise of my visit, purely exploratory, with no agenda whatsoever, with no projects in particular, until I was introduced to Ernesto Dorana, and the invitation to participate became real.
You say you didn't pick the project because it was political, but you sure seem very political on Twitter, a social network where you are very active. In a very divided country, socially and politically, like your country right now, how do you think the audience responds to famous people like you who are vocal as you?
Well, what I've noticed about Twitter or any post you make on any social media platform is that the minute you say something, 50% of the people love you and 50% of the people hate you. no matter what you say. You could say, I want to stamp out cancer, and there's going to be 50% of the motherfuckers out there that are going to go, fuck you, man, we love cancer. Because Twitter is like insane. You basically, I don't know, if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be a tweeter, I would have laughed. I never thought that I would get caught up in this. But I also never imagined living in a time where the things that I hold dear about my country are under attack. And for some strange reason, I'm reacting to it. I'm not even sure why, but I'm reacting to it very, very, you know, it's more important to me than I ever thought it was. Freedom, decency, you know, the things that you're taught are human rights when you're being taught how to pledge allegiance to the flag and stuff like this. Things that you're taught in civics classes about the Bill of Rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, individualism, free speech. They're all under attack right now in my country. Impossible, and yet possible. So there are a lot of people who tell me, shut up and act. Like there are a lot of people who tell basketball players, shut up and dribble. Like there are a lot of people who tell, you know, there's always going to be people who want to stop you when they disagree with you because it's inconvenient for them to hear the truth or to hear your truth. But, you know, you got one life. You have one small moment on this planet to do all the things that a responsible human does. And one of them is demand we don't destroy the planet. And another one is demand that our government at least keeps its word about freedom of the press, about freedom to speak freely, about all those things.
You joked, I assume it was a joke, about running for president on 2020. Do you see yourself?
Maybe. Maybe it was a joke, maybe not. I'm not going to tell you.
Why not?
I'm not telling you, I'm not telling anybody.
I was attending Guillermo del Toro's master class yesterday. And
you're a lucky guy.
Yeah. And he said many interesting things about his way of directing. He's such a visual director, isn't he? How does it affect you as an actor when you work with him?
Well, his obsession with the frame, the visual part of filmmaking, is can be very tiring because he won't leave a shot until the shot is perfect. And I'm a guy who has a very short concentration span. The minute I play a scene to my liking, I'm ready to move. Having said that, you can't argue with Guillermo because what he's fighting for is so beautiful and so on a higher level in terms of the great visual artists that have contributed to cinema. He's one of the best. You can't argue because you know it's worth it. What he's doing is worth it. However annoying it is, however time-consuming it is. But he's not just a visualist. He's also obsessed with narrative. He's obsessed with storytelling. He's a very, very good actor's director. He will give me little behavioral quirks to think about. Most directors never think about that. That's an actor's job. And his ideas are really, really good and can alter my whole approach to playing a character for the better. So he's very unique. He has a skill set that is complete and brilliant.
¿La NASA? Rescatando al último cosmonauta soviético abandonado en el espacio.
Está bajo investigación.
Tú estás en algo con los americanos y los rusos.